Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sean Barnes with Care Patrol. It's right at 12 o'clock on Thursday, February 3rd, and we're continuing our monthly CEU topics every Tuesday, or most every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm pleased to see all of you here. You may be expecting to see Jay Jones. And if you weren't with us on last week's CEU, then you didn't learn that Jay has taken a new assignment with a company that he feels is a good opportunity for him to broaden his mission of teaching folks. And so he'll be working with a home care company and doing, what we're doing today, hopefully on a different day. So you can attend both, but certainly it'd be great to have more people throw their hat in putting CEUs out for folks now that it's difficult to get them in person. As a reminder to everyone, we are 1 second here. As a reminder to everyone, this is a 1.0 hour for social workers and 1.2 for RNs. And I, Sean Barnes, who own Care Patrol, will be the person delivering our content. Certainly for the moment, for this month. I do want to extend to each of you, if you are someone who enjoys teaching, lecturing, and sharing your knowledge and experience with others, then we'd love to have you be a guest presenter for us. We have the capacity, as you may know, to credential and award contact hours as social work hours per the Board of Social Work of Alabama. And so if you have a presentation, we can help you achieve a contact hour for it and deliver it via Zoom. And because these are via Zoom, these are live. So I think it's 18 hours that you have to have live when you renew. So this counts as a live CE, not a recorded CE. However, this is being recorded and it will be available for download. When we send you our certificate, which will be a digital copy of a paper certificate for nurses and social workers, it will send with it the slides that you'll see today. Then we'd like those evaluations, in order to receive those certificates, to be done by 5 o'clock via SurveyMonkey. So the SurveyMonkey address is here below on my screen, but for those of you who are calling in by phone, I'll go ahead and read it, and then I'll read it again at the conclusion of today so that you'll have it. But the SurveyMonkey address is HTTPS, and just so y'all know, anytime you have an HTTPS, the S means it's secure. It's a secure server, so you can exchange information like payment information or personal information, contact information over that site. So the address is https://www.surveymonkey.com/R//K-P-Q-H. That's Kevin, Paul, Quentin, and Howard. So those are the that's the address for SurveyMonkey. You must have the code word included in that, which you will learn later in the presentation. As you may know already, the board requires that someone sitting for a contact hour be present for at least 40 minutes of that contact hour, which means that, for example, today at 12:20, we will lock our waiting room and not allow anyone in. And it also means that it'll be 40 minutes or so before I tell you the code word. so that I know that you've listened to the presentation and can then fill out the Survey Monkey and can then get your certificates awarded, which will be awarded by Friday, tomorrow at 5 o'clock. If you have questions, please use the chat room. I'll try and keep as best an eye on it as I can. Excuse me, y'all. I'll try and keep as best an eye on it as I can. As we're still admitting folks, I'll go ahead and say that while Jay has left us for a good opportunity for Jay, and we wish him Godspeed, there's still employees at Care Patrol that would love to help your clients or patients or friends or yourselves. It's Dixie Tyler, who lives in Decatur and serves Decatur and Huntsville, Athens. Tracy Talley, who lives just east of Huntsville and serves Huntsville and east. And Jennifer Redding, who lives in Florence and serves Florence, Alabama, which is my hometown. And then we are looking to add some 4 folks here in Birmingham and in Montgomery this year and maybe beyond. So we're blessed that you all refer to us. We are so grateful to you for referring to us. And we are happy to be able to do things like education units today and other days. Excuse me. So we still have a few folks joining. It is 12:07. Knowing how long I will end up talking, I think we'll go ahead and get started, y'all. So today's topic is home safety. And when we think about safety, we think about the opposite of safety, which are accidents. So every year, and this is astonishing to me, y'all, every year, 40,000 people die in auto accidents. But then if I think about it, I think, I bet everyone who's here today probably has been touched by this in some way, knows someone who, was tragically injured in an auto accident. But 40,000 is a lot of souls and a lot of lives and a lot of families. And that's just 25% of the death by accident. The other 75%, 120,000 people die annually in America because of accidents around the home. Accidents around the home. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to learn that technology, and I'm an old man. So the top 5 in-home accidents are these: poisoning, and you see here we've included a photograph of a pill bottle, and that has got to be the great bulk of poisoning deaths. I would assume would be due to medication non-compliance, things of that nature. And falling is number 2. So of 120,000 people who die, the top 2 reasons are they have been poisoned, and this is likely more through taking the wrong medication or falling, which could be any number of things. Choking, drowning, fires. I mean, none of these are pleasant. I can't imagine we would want to go in any of these ways. I have, one thing I can say is, accidents can happen anytime to anybody doing anything. And this is what we need to be, I think, aware of as we go through our discussion today, is just being mindful in our own lives and in the lives of those we touch, particularly those who are older. We would ask, see, Robin Oswald has her hand raised, but I'm not sure how to, maybe Robin, you could type something. Excuse me, y'all. So poisoning, falling, choking, drowning, fires. And I know poisoning happened to me once. I was vacuuming my house and I was drinking Mountain Dew, and I was also getting ready to mop. So what I did was I drank Pine Sol. Terrible, terrible. And then I panicked. So then I thought, oh, I guess I've got to, relieve myself of this Pine Sol. So I been over the sink with no success, and really panicked then and called poison control and wanted to know, well, what do I, maybe I can ingest something to help this, or, you know, are my insides gonna rot out? And so as I call, the first thing they say at the poison hotline is do not induce vomiting. So of course I immediately threw up because I was so scared, you know, that I had been trying to do that and I wasn't supposed to do that. I was so scared that I ended up doing it anyway. And so I'll just tell you, it's not pleasant. So Mountain Dew is very different in flavor from Pine Sol, which tastes horrible going down and unspeakable coming up. So accidents can happen to anyone, anytime. But in this case, you know, I was a 35-year-old man, which was some many moons ago, as you can tell. I wasn't an aging person. And what we want to focus on today are aging folks in our charge in some way, because they're our patients, they're our clients, they're our friends, they're our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles. We want to address things in ways to keep them safe as we go on. And let me see again. So, and here I include this slide for one reason and one reason only. It is the first time in my life that I recall Alabama being number one in something where that was a good thing. And so here we are. We have the least fatalities per 100,000 people of any state due to household accidents, particularly falls. Whereas Wisconsin has, you know, trebles, or, you know, 4 times us. And so I don't know why that is. My assumption is that people in Alabama don't climb ladders, but I don't know if that's true. But it is something that I think we can all take some heart in a lighthearted way in knowing that Alabama has indeed achieved a #1 ranking. Oh, and Tina Summers says the North have more fall from it. No doubt. That makes sense. Now that would get, yeah, all those folks, even New Mexico gets a lot of snow. So I think you're right about that, Tina. Here's the thing, and this shouldn't, if you think about it, it doesn't surprise me. Why would we think fall deaths would have increased 30% over the last 9 years? My belief is that in that same time, that same 9-year period, the amount of people over 80 in Birmingham alone, in Birmingham, Alabama, the amount of people over 80 has doubled in that time. Doubled in that time. And Darla Dean says increase in opiate use. I think that's certainly true, Darla. With fall deaths, I'm not as sure of fall deaths, but maybe you're right. I would think they would already be on the ground. But the fall deaths increased, I think, in part, you're right, because of opiates, and in part, I think, just because of debility, because of people aging and hitting an aging mark that they weren't hitting. We weren't hitting 10 years ago. We didn't have this many people this age. And so naturally, I think as people age and their bodies become weaker, and they still maybe do some things that they once did that perhaps they shouldn't do, I think we're going to have falls. But I mean, regardless, there are many reasons, and we'll address many of them today. So this sort of astonishes me too. 3 million older people treated in emergency departments for falls every year. And over 800,000 are then admitted and hospitalized with a head injury or a broken hip. Now, Medicare in 2015 paid about $32 billion of medical costs related only to falls. And you can see why. Those of you in the hospital, you know, or anyone really, that head injuries require usually long hospitalizations and long rehab stints. And then hip fractures, you know, again, maybe acute rehab in a hospital, long rehab stint. So that's going to be a higher cost to Medicare. But I mean, the numbers are astonishing to me. that we would have so many people who are, falling and needing help annually. And the cost, just, the cost is what I guess gets me really. It's just unsustainable and that was 2015 numbers. That was 7 years ago. I'm sure that's probably double too, in terms of billions of dollars, just like everything else seems to be going up. So 1 out of 5 falls. So out of these, 800,000 people that end up being hospitalized, they have a broken bone like a hip, or they have a head injury, maybe a brain bleed or something horrible. 300,000 people hospitalized with hip fractures, 95% caused by falling. But see, this is where I wonder about this one little piece of data, because anecdotally, at least, you think of hip breaks as being the reason for the fall, not the result of the fall. I mean, many times people will break a hip and then fall. So I don't know that maybe that's what we mean here by falling sideways. But falls are the most common cause of traumatic brain injuries, and that can happen so quickly. My mother, who's 86, fell about a month ago and didn't tell me that she fell until several days later, even after I visited there. And it's frightening. So again, and there's some things I need to do and have done in her apartment or condominium to make things safer to move around, because something like that, even though I was there the next day, I mean, she could have, who knows, and it was a rug. It was a rug injury, as a matter of fact, as things so often are. We want to look at the reason for these falls because of the expense. And I may have gone one too far here. Yeah. Lower body weakness. And I touched on that with my sense that as people age and become a greater debility, or maybe have disease progressions as they age, like Parkinson's, that have greater debility causing to them, they have a lower body weakness. And two, older folks don't leave the chair, particularly if they have a scooter, they don't leave it. They never leave those once they get in them. But my own dear mother, I have to go to her house, and she's now learned to keep her walking shoes by her chair. I make her put them on like Mr. Rogers, and she puts on her sweater like Mr. Rogers, and we walk up and down the street. But if I don't do that, she won't walk, and she won't think about walking, and she will become weak and debilitated, even though she's a really healthy person. And so lower body weakness, I mean, is an obvious culprit in falls. Vitamin D deficiency, obvious culprit in hip fractures. And then there are difficulties with walking and balance. I think I mentioned earlier, someone perhaps who has Parkinson's, who now has sort of lost the ability to pick up their feet, but must sort of shuffle instead. Those folks, throw rugs are the enemy of those folks as well. And then many of you touched on medicines as the cause for falls. And really, it was y'all who illuminated to me, more than I was thinking about it, how much of a problem medications are in falls. So, so those are some of the reasons that we have falls, but there are more, and we'll investigate those as well. Vision problems. So vision problems can be macular degeneration, for example, where, as y'all know, people begin to see things in a cone-like shape, or it can be folks who have cataracts or glaucoma, who it would be as sort of as if you were looking through wax paper. So, imagine trying to circumnavigate your house when you are looking through wax paper, and for whatever reason that I cannot determine, older folks do not turn on lights, and so it's dark to begin with, plus you can't see. This is a culprit for falling. So I have a little side hustle business called Rosie moves, and I move people into assisted livings. And one of the things I insist that we do is take many, many, many lamps, because there's never enough overhead lighting, and we always need lamp light. We want to have lamps in just about every corner if we can. So light is a culprit in falls and vision problems, foot pain and footwear. I have a friend whose father is 92. He just moved him to Washington, D.C., and the man has had difficulty walking for really the last 2 years, and finally has found some sort of orthotic footwear that has made a difference in his life. He is now at 92 walking the streets of Washington, D.C. And so you can see that just addressing something as almost simple, something we almost don't think about, like our footwear, can make a difference in the quality of our life and the safety within our life, or within the life of someone we care about, particularly that aging person we care about. And then there are home hazards and dangers, which we will address here in just a moment, that you can use in your own life and with those you love, as well as with your patients or clients. But truly, like everything, and nothing in life is black and white. Y'all know this. Everything is gray. And so really the cause of falls is not one of these things, but all of them, and maybe none of them. It is really one of those things that is ever present in our lives, is accidents and falls and injury. But we can minimize that, and we can protect ourselves, and we can protect those we love. So let's take a look at that. One of the ways that we want to approach this is from the perspective of universal design. Now, universal design components were created by Steinfeld or Maisel in the 2012 work, but it was preceded really in the 60s. Probably the thing that you would recognize most that is a direct result of universal design would be anytime you park in front of a business or a sidewalk or a corner of a street, there is a place in the sidewalk that sort of goes down and meets the level of the street, a sort of cutout almost. That's universal design. The wheelchair access sort of ramp is universal design. And if you look at ADA compliance, which is the American Disabilities Act, a lot of it would conform to universal design principles, those being body fit. Think about how body fit impacts the elderly and their spaces. Comfort. Think about how shoes have changed the life of one person I know. Awareness, which is what we're gaining together and understanding and hopefully imparting to others. Wellness, which I would say wellness would be, we would say that addressing our medication components in wellness would be a necessary component of a universally designed, holistically designed space in which to live safely. And then of course, we want to have personalization, socialization, and cultural appropriateness. So for example, in Indonesia, many of the homes have one or two sides, and then one or two sides are just open air. Well, you would never do that in Minnesota, right? And so there are obviously geographical and cultural components that you would take into consideration in universal design and in how you fit someone's home. And by this, maybe that's also a personalized feature, but nonetheless, universal design is how we want to approach what we're about to look at in terms of home safety. So, home assessments. Now, if you or a client, patient, loved one are ready to commit to creating a safe environment, then you probably will want to get some type of home safety assessment. And that can be done any number of ways. My company, Care Patrol, could do one. You could go to any sort of company that sells durable medical equipment. They could, I'm sure, do a home safety assessment. I would expect that a home health agency, which physical therapist or occupational therapist, could offer some home safety guidance. Very likely in home care companies, so sitter type service companies would provide that service. And then there's a number of new businesses, as you all know, springing up that target, or not target, that's the wrong word, but serve aging people. And so there are now businesses that, do home modifications for aging in place, and I'm sure they could do a home assessment. So there are many places you could get one done, but it's certainly the thing you want to have done to make an improvement in your home. But I hopefully we're about to teach you how to do your own. The first thing you want to do is, let's say that you're going into the home of someone who's been there 60 years. And this happens with my little movie business. And you walk in and they don't know, it's just so overwhelming. There's so much stuff everywhere and so much that needs to change. That's scary. And you don't know where to start. So what we want to do is we want to take small bites, just like everything really in life. We want to take small bites and go room to room and just attack room by room. And what I would say that we want to do really is to look for what's right first. Okay. Look for what's right and celebrate that and accentuate that in many ways. And by that, I mean perhaps the placement of a piece of furniture that allows properly for a walkway, or an attempt at stacking certain things that are of like minds in a certain area. So we want to think about that as part of home safety, but you also want to think about the physical actual home. And this is back to universal design and ADA compliance. So home doorways are typically 30 inches or less wide. Wheelchairs need 32. And so you'll see that doors for home modification, really, I would suggest 36-inch doors. If you have to modify them, I think you should modify them to allow, like, for example, a large scooter to pass, and without skin knuckles. So you want to make sure the doorways are wide enough. That includes the front door. And it would be really any sort of passageways that person uses. And that would be immediately sort of visible in the home. You'll know what's their pathway to and from rooms in the house. And that's sort of where you want to make sure those passageways have widened doors. So it may be that you're looking at someone that is going to have things in the future, like maybe needs a lift chair. So you want to look for outlets in the room, and then you want to consolidate things. There may be, with older folks, there may be 15 things plugged into an outlet. Some of them maybe, they've even peeled off the grounding little piece, and it's just frightening. So yeah, Charity, Jay is doing this with another company, and he's doing it with Right at Home, and probably starting in March. So I'm sorry if you tuned in looking for Jay, if you came in later. I had mentioned earlier that Jay has taken a different opportunity he feels would be better suited. It allows him to expand into Nashville and other areas. Of course, the web allows all of that. But so what we're going to do at Care Patrol is I'm going to fill in for Jay this month. And then what I'd like to do, and you may be someone, Charity, who can assist with this, is, if you're someone who's a teacher or lecturer or educator, I'd love to have you come and I can credential your presentation to be, a contact hour. You can deliver it, and hopefully get gratification out of that, and even mention where you work or who you work for if you want. I'm happy to do that, but would love to have this be an expansive knowledge for you all, certainly not just mine, And then also an area of resource, so that when you come to these CEUs, we share names and resources with you that will impact and help your practice. So this is one of those, which is both personal and professional, which is trying to do a safe home assessment. So we were talking about electrical cords. That's sort of an obvious, I think. If they're in the walkway, you want them removed. If they're frayed, you want to replace them. Clutter is the thing that is the enemy of most people who've been in their home a long time. And so that we can begin to help them. Now, that's a little more labor intensive, but it means doing things like getting rid of last year's utility bills. You know, we want to keep bank statements for 5 years. We don't need to keep utility bills at all. We don't need to keep taxes past 7 years. If we have maybe little pieces of paper and notebooks, maybe we could consolidate them, put them in a notebook for someone, do it in a 3-ring binder. But we can help someone declutter, and that in itself is a job, and I can talk for days about it. But the point is, really, the point of this is safety. So we just want to get the clutter out of the walkway. And this is not a problem for many people, but it is a problem for some. I mean, I've been in homes where you literally walk through the boxes from room to room, and it is a hazard. So that's the living area. One thing that Jay, who wrote this proposal, had sort of harped on, and I agree, that can be such a hazard, whether it's in the bedroom or in the living room, is a pet. So if you have a small dog that's sort of a at your feet type dog, or even a large dog, I mean, these can be great tripping hazards for the elderly, particularly if their bed is, you know, in the walkway, in the pathway to the bath or to the bed or to wherever. You know, those are the issues with pets, and we may need to rehome the pet, or even take the pet home with us for a while, which is tragic. But you know, we really would not want to take the pet if we didn't have to. Just sort of reorient where the pet sleeps and goes and eats and things of that nature. So in the bedroom, the thing I would say that one of the biggest reasons for falls that I hear from clients who call me is husband gets up to use the restroom at night, comes back to bed, and attempts to sit on the bed, and the mattress is too high and misses and sort of slumps down to the ground, and the wife calls 911 because she cannot get him up. And really, the simple way to avoid many of those 911 calls is to lower the bed. It may mean doing something like taking out the box spring and just having the mattress on the frame, or removing the frame, or both. Well, not both, because really you want the bed to be about knee height, about back of knee height. You definitely want night lights, not only in the bedroom, in the bathroom, but in the hallway, anywhere there's a walkway, anywhere there's a pathway, we want night lights, particularly if we know, for example, that our loved one, our aging adult, gets up, you know, 2 at night to have cereal. We want to make sure the pathway to the kitchen is lit, so that if, for example, there's a dog in the house and there's a chew toy that's in the pathway that's not ordinarily there, that we see it. So those are the reasons that we want to monitor whether there's a pet, and the reason that we want to have lights. And it goes back to vision. So folks with poor vision need lighting in order to better see their environment and better avoid the pitfalls in their environment. Someone earlier mentioned, Valerie, I think, that, you know, carpet is an evil thing with the aging, with falling. And they, you know, folks who are of a certain generation love little throw rugs in the kitchen in front of the sink, and, you know, in the hallway, the runners. With my moving business, I just flatly refuse to take throw rugs and runners. The only thing I will take is something that's maybe 7 by 9, 8 by 10, and then we tape it down. And even then, that's dubious. But the little things that slide out from under you, those are the worst. I recommend that you have a chair always for someone, and the chair have arms, and that it be somewhere near where they put on their shoes or socks, somewhere near the closet area. This is a place so that, again, to keep safe. Um, None of the furniture in an elderly person's environment should be on casters. But that's sort of an obvious. The thing that I guess would be my soapbox moment would be that there are many aging people who use what's called the rollator. I'm sure you've seen these. It's sort of a walker, but it has four wheels and sort of nifty brakes and a little seat that you can sometimes fold up and use as storage. And they come in all kinds of colors. And if you ever go to a community like an assisted living, they're parked outside the dining room like it's a diner. I always think it's sort of people come. It's like, who has the Cadillac, of the rollator. It seems like a competition to me, but those things are on casters in a sense, and they're very dangerous. And the reason being that folks use them, and like in a community, may have a long haul to traverse, may see a friend, start talking, decide they want to sit down for a minute, turn around and forget to lock those brakes, and then they're down. And then we've got to get someone to get them up. And that's if they're okay. That's if they didn't hurt their tailbone or hit their head or break something. So, if you have someone that needs the help of a walker, the traditional walkers with the tennis balls on the back, those are much safer than the rollators. Just a pet peeve of mine. So in the bedroom, I think we've covered, it really comes to lighting and head and bed height is what we're looking for. In the bathroom, it's grab handles. And I would generally suggest that you either go back to that DME store and have someone there where they can install grab handles and they come out to your house and measure, etc. Or even better, in my opinion, would be getting, if you could, a home health therapist to do an assessment for you, to tell you where to put those bars for you to get in and out of the toilet safely, or excuse me, out of the shower safely, or up and down from the commode safely, or in and out of whatever entryway in your house you need. But you definitely want them in places in the bathroom. And you want to remember that, certainly as we age, our skin becomes more as greater breakdown. And so hot water can be especially debilitating and drying. So we want to make sure the water heater is 120 degrees or less. We've talked about throw rugs, the worst of these. I mean, the criminal throw rugs, those on death row, sorry for the acronym, or for the anachronism, but the worst are the ones in the bath. The absolute worst is the little one that's sort of a half circle around the commode, but the one that out of the shower that you slip on, those we cannot have those. If you have aged people in your life who have those, please get rid of them. Just go in their house and just pick them up and just walk out and don't say a word and just take the hit. I mean, just take the hit, take the anger. But just you cannot. Those things are so dangerous. One thing I think is interesting, and my parents did this. A lot of aging folks, excuse me, still have landline phones. And if the person you're working with, a client, patient, relative, parent, if they have a landline phone, get a phone installed in the bathroom. And then if they have a fall or an issue in there, perhaps they can get to the phone and call 911. And then again, with the DME companies that we want to do things like look for anything that might lessen the burden of the prospect of falling. So look at the walkers with the tennis balls, not the rollators. Certainly for the home, certainly for someone home alone. Look for the raised seats for the commode. Look for if they can do a shower cutout of your bath, so you have a less of a step to get to the bath, or do a total no-lip shower if you can afford it. But those are the things you want to look at in the bathroom. And that's the place where most of these accidents happen. And again, there are many resources. All of them are private vendors who will sort of discuss these things with you and help you achieve installing them. Hallways. So the thing about hallways is, again, no runners and night lights along the floor, as many outlets as you have along the floor, and just lighting in general. But and especially again, if there's dogs or dog toys, try and keep that area free of dog clutter. Outside the home, and here's the thing that I think people sort of neglect to think about, is when you have someone who is elderly and has lived in a home for a long time, oftentimes the shrubs that started out, about knee high are now as high as the roof. And that is, I think, very unsafe for the elderly person, because it prevents someone from seeing in, which allows, I think, nefarious people to know that once they get in, they've got free reign. So I would suggest, if you have folks that are sort of aging and their shrubs are grown up to the top of the fascia on the bottom of the roof, then I would cut those back down to about waist high. And then another thing, if they're that overgrown, they're probably in the walkway, on the stairway. One of the things about outside and hallways is handrails. I've seen some really creative handrails that looked like chair rail, and this may be a way to sell it for someone that's at home, but you have a chair rail looking handrail, and then for that person, they have some place to balance in a long hallway. And the other thing that you might do is even go so far as to paint below the chair rail one color and above the chair rail another color. And that way you help those people that are vision impaired to make a distinction between the wall and the floor and the ceiling, and give them a sense of depth perception, what they otherwise lack. So that, I think, inside and out, if you can establish handrails, you want to do that. And you just want to, in general, whether it's outside, if you're parking in an area where you have to walk over gravel to get to the sidewalk, park in a different area. If you're used to going this way to cutting through somewhere to get to a different room in the house, just clear that area. Don't just weave like you've always weaved, because it's always been there. So it's a rethinking of purpose and a rethinking of the environment that's sort of needed in the home assessment to keep it safe. The exterior we've discussed somewhat, but obviously you want to have a good working front door. And I really, if you have a glass front door, and depending on where you live, that's not safe. If it is glass and it's a deadbolt, make sure it's a keyed deadbolt. Make sure the key is out of it. Bright lighting around the walkways or the corners of the house would be preferred. Uplighting on the house would look good and also keep people away. I keep my outside lights on at night on my porch, just because I just think there are certain things too that if you have an older person, that you can keep them safe in other ways by doing something like putting their lights on timers, so that they go off around the house at certain times. So it looks like there's more people there, more activity there, so that the front room that's always dark isn't always dark. So those are things that you can do exterior wise to keep the home safe. I think we've sort of covered, from exterior to hallway to bed, bath, and bedroom and kitchen. In the kitchen, just remove the any of the throw rugs. And here's the thing: if you've got someone who's got dementia and they have an electric stove, you can either unplug it, or you can remove the burners, and you can just, that way it looks like it's going to work, but it doesn't. or if it's a gas stove, just undo the gas. But what we don't want are, cooking accidents. And I had a client in June, and her mother did exactly this as we were waiting for a space to open in memory care. Her mother had a fire because she left the stove on. We can take care of things like that in a home safety assessment too, is checking on, the kitchen, making sure the person can still cook, can still operate the microwave, etc., and keeping those in play or not in play. Also looking in the refrigerator. One element of safety would be, is this person well? Are they eating well? Is the food in here fresh, or does it need to be thrown out? So, these are safety considerations for the kitchen area that I think should be made. So who does home assessments, and does Medicare cover it? Well, no, y'all know that Medicare doesn't cover the cost of services like that, but they really don't need to, because the people who do home assessments mostly do them at no charge, whether that's a home health agency or a DME company or Care Patrol. I mean, we all want to, get to know the person for some business purpose, and we're happy to do a free home assessment because it's the right thing to do, and it helps them, and it may help us. So insurance agents do these, any of the security companies where you help by fall and I can't get up type companies would probably do this. And best would be an OT or PT if you could get a home health order for someone to do a home assessment. But certainly many of you as clinicians know what to look for, and hopefully we've given you some ideas here today that would help you do a home assessment of your own. Here are some other resources we found, and again, my hope and point is that we work with you and provide you with resources that we use, that we discover, that might be helpful in each of your markets. And there's a new one that I tried to get the logo on here and I somehow did it wrong, but it's called True Blue. I just noticed it yesterday. They do home handyman services for elderly adults. So home handyman services for elderly adults. And I don't know how they charge or anything, but it's called True Blue. And I think it's a franchise. So it's likely that something like that, or one of the companies listed here, Landis at Home, Great Call, Silver Spaces, Safety Culture, or Care Patrol near you would be happy to do a home assessment. And now we want to just sort of touch back on, in a summary sort of way, Aging in Place 101, which is, if you're going to stay in your home, medical and mobility equipment is key. So wheelchair ramps, the lift recliner lift chairs, which, by the way, Medicare pays for the lift mechanism, but not for the chair. But that's to help. Any of those, the elevators, the grab bars, the stair lifts, scooters, any of those things are just key for staying in your home. And then when you get back, like, for example, to the kitchen and the bathroom, if you foresee a time when you will be wheelchair bound, or the person whose home you're assessing will be, or already is, wheelchair bound, then you looked at things like changing the kitchen cabinets out so that they're accessible, like the kitchen sink, for example. So everything would be, you've probably seen wheelchair accessible, vanities before. So you would change out things like that, maybe lower the cabinets so they're more reachable, or the countertops rather. So, things of that nature would be done under the guise of mobility and medical equipment, because those sorts of home modifications are generally done by companies that work for, or that contract to DME companies. Universal design is really why we think the way we do about safety in the home and how to achieve safety in the home, particularly for those that have mobility issues that come from aging or disease. And then, We would say in our little business that really you're safer if you're in a community. So there's another set or sets of eyes to lay on you, not only the staff, but your neighbors. And then there's some of the benefits of universal design, which is that you are being met in your needs spiritually and socially in the community sense. And that is what we find that data shows keeps people old or older, living longer, is having that sense of community and belonging and purpose. And these are the things that we suggest and promote are beneficial to most, not all, obviously, but to most. And we'd love to help you in that regard as Care Patrol. And that would conclude really today's teaching. There are some jokes that Jay left for us here, which is 12 commandments for seniors. And number one, I think, is number one for a reason. Talk to yourself. There are times you need expert advice. I know this is true for me. Number two, in style are the clothes that still fit. And that is true for me too. I bought them in the 90s. You don't need anger management. You need people to stop making you mad. Your people skills are just fine. It's your tolerance for idiots that needs work. The biggest lie you tell yourself is, I don't need to write that down. I'll remember it. Anybody else just feel a twinge of, that's me. I know that. I think I'll remember everything. I do keep notes in my phone sometimes, then I forget that I have a phone. On time is when you get there. And I long believe that. Even duct tape can't fix stupid, but it sure does muffle the sound. It would be wonderful if we could put ourselves in the dryer for 10 minutes, then come out wrinkle-free and 3 sizes smaller. I would, but I think you could also put yourself in the wash. I think the hot water will do that too. Lately, you've noticed that people your age are so much older than you. I see folks, on the news or what have you, and I thought, man, he's kind of old. And then I realized he's like 6 years younger than me. Here's the one that hits home most for me. Growing old should have taken longer. It's hard to believe that I've lived in Birmingham for 30 years. I just can't believe that. It doesn't seem like that's possible. And this is true of me. Aging has slowed you down, but it hasn't shut you up. And I apologize for that. It's a lot of talking to yourself when you do these CEUs, but hopefully I've educated and illuminated and hopefully entertained. And I hope you'll be back for our next teaching, and look forward to joining Jay in March at his new job. One for the road, and I'll leave on this. It means going to the bathroom before you leave the house. So the code word is nightlight for the Survey Monkey. I'm sorry, I did not give that sooner. I'm going to type that right here to everyone. Night light is the code. The Survey Monkey is https://www.surveymonkey.com/r as in Richard / and this is an uppercase C as in Charlie 59 uppercase Kevin Paul Quentin with a Q Harris. That Survey Monkey. If you will get in your surveys by 5 o'clock today, please, and I'll get them out tomorrow in certificates. You'll also get these slides. And I'd love if you want to give feedback. I know I'm not Jay, y'all. I don't pretend to be, but hopefully this has been a good use of your time and you'll consider tuning in again. Thank you so much for all that you do. I will put a link in the box. Let me see. I'm going to type it here, y'all. Oh, Connie did it. Thank you so much, Connie. That's excellent. thank you all for listening. Thank you all. I'd like for these again to be things where it's not just me up here every week, but that there are many other people. I know there are many of you have terrific experience and education and ability to teach your peers. And I hope you'll take me up on my offer to help you do that. Thank you, Roberta and Tarika. It's thank you. It's so kind. Thank you, Patrice. I've been nervous about this for several days. So I appreciate y'all's attentiveness. I'm sure I'll get better. Well, I'm going to stop the presentation, y'all. It's unless you have questions. Does anyone have a question? If you have one last question. Yeah, the password, Tammy, is nightlight. That's the CEU code word. It's nightlight. Everyone get that? The SurveyMonkey password is nightlight. Oh, let me fix that, y'all. I think I'll fix it. I'll fix the SurveyMonkey here right now. But to do so, I'll need to stop sharing the screen. If it's not working, email me here at sbarnes, which is SBARNES at carepatrol.com. If you can't get it working, the password is nightlight. Yeah. Oh, Valerie says it's working. Mm-hmm. You on the phone? I just finished I was still doing my thing. How's your day? Just fine.